an AA meeting sometimes. We should sit around and go, well, you know, I used to do this. I was driving into our local town, Balaclava, and I was thinking, what the hell is that bloody great big dust? And I pulled up on the side of the road, and a bloke I know was out prickle chaining in the middle of February, breaking up a bit of stubble. And that is not superimposed, that sign is actually there on the side of the road next to his paddock so that the people of Balaclava stop stealing the soil off the sides of the road to put in their garden. And I had the opportunity to take that photo there. But this top photo is us sowing sunflowers into a cover crop. And what I'd like to say is we're very fortunate in Australia to actually choose the way we farm. Cassie and I have been very fortunate to speak at no-till conferences around the world, and here in Australia we actually get to choose how we farm. Everybody else is pretty well told how they're dictated to by the government. So we have the choice, and every day we make choices on our farm that is either going to improve our farm or not so improve our farm. So we've been zero-till disc seeding for 20 years. We were no livestock for 28 years until Cassie and I met, and Cassie wanted one cow, and I said, well, if we're going to do one, we might as well do 100. So we might as well do 100. And then, so Dad had a merino stud, and then when continuous cropping and no-till started, he got rid of the livestock. And then we purchased a shell-borne stripper header, so we've been running a stripper header now for 12 years, so that strip and disc system that I brought back from the USA. We started controlled traffic 12 years ago. That took us 5 years to get into a full controlled traffic system. No phos starter for 5 years, and that's because we have huge amounts of phosphorus, available phosphorus in our soils, and we've been liquefying urea. So quickly, for those people who don't know what a stripper header is, it goes on the front of our combine, and it just literally strips the grain out the top of the heads. So we use this for wheat and barley, but what it does is it leaves our stubble standing really tall, and we're able to sow back through that with our disc seeder. But the basis of no-till and no-till farming is residue management starts at harvest. And that's some of the basics that are being forgotten these days about no-till farming. That residue management starts at harvest, so seeding, next year's seeding starts at harvest time the year before. Make sure we're spreading the residue out the back of the combine perfectly, getting that ground covered, and trying to leave our stubble standing to stop evaporation. Also, what we find is we reduce the hairpinning, because the longer straw is easier to cut. So a good friend of mine, Rick Bieber, said, it's like running a comb through your hair. If the stubble or the cover crop is anchored into the ground, then the disc seeder will pass straight through it with no problems. So what we're able to do is we make our own microclimate as well. So those little plants are hidden down in that stubble, and we're getting them through those, May, dry, possibly dry, May, June periods. So what does fire do? So we had a lightning strike out the back of Mum and Dad's house and burnt half the paddock. That is what fire does in our system. When a patch of paddock is burnt and the stubble is burnt, that is the moisture conservation difference that our stubble retention gives us. Huge, massive visual difference. The other thing is we've been struggling with ryegrass in that burning pat, where that burnt, for the last 3 or 4 years, ever since that fire went through. So you cannot tell me that burning cures ryegrass. It does not. It has made it worse through that patch there. Controlled traffic, for those people who have never seen a controlled traffic system, it's about keeping all-wheel traffic designated to tram lines. So all our machinery is set up to a 3-to-1 ratio, so matching the wheel tracks. So in a normal system where you're not matching up wheel tracks, you can be 75 to 100% of the soil is trafficked. With our system, we're approximately 15%. So this is what a controlled traffic farming system looks like. We match all our wheel spacings up so we're driving on the same bit of dirt. And these machines are getting bigger and heavier. Every time we change them over, they're getting bigger and heavier. So you can see there that we run a 3-to-1 spacing. So you've got a boom spray that's 3, and then we've got a seeder and a harvester. What we are finding That 40% yield improvement number is on our loam sand. How do we make a house base or a road base? We get sand, we get water, we roll it and we till it and we roll it and we wet it and we till it and we roll it, we wet it, we till it, and we get a house base. Turns hard. And that's what was happening to our loam sands. So we've actually found the biggest improvement in our loam sands there at the 40% mark. On our heavier clay soils, we probably don't need to be on controlled traffic. We don't seem to see those big compaction areas in the heavy clays. We do have a fuel saving because we're always running on those hard tram lines. So the boom spray, you know, we're saving that 5 to 20% in fuel savings, running a boom spray and a spreader. And also we're getting higher efficiencies from our chemicals and fertilisers just from being, you know, we're not overlapping as much. And we're just able to keep better speeds and ground speeds and things like that. But we definitely have seen, you know, faster water infiltration rates through the zero till and the control traffic. You can also set your planter up or drill up because you know where your compaction is. So it's just like, you know, controlling your grazing, we're controlling our compaction so we know exactly where our compaction is. We can put heavier springs where we need better depth control. Disadvantages. That is where my father turned around in crop 2 years previous. And we can still see those tram lines. We changed it up. The next combine, when we went to full control traffic, you know, we chose to put tracks on our big combine. These things are getting so bloody heavy. And, you know, 8 out of 10 harvests for us are dry and we don't have any compaction, but it's those two years of wet harvest that you leave wheel ruts that are going to be there for the next 20 years. And of course, being on controlled traffic, we just needed a bit more grip to pull our seeder, and that's on full control traffic as well. So we've been mucking around with cover crops for nearly 13 years. And why do we must start mucking around with cover crops? So trying to get those deeper roots into our system, trying to pull up nutrients that we've possibly lost. This is my dad Ashley. But what we're looking at there is, you know, the different root systems and why we mix our cover crops up. So you can see there, that's a really big tillage radish. This is a sunflower, so you can see the beautiful, great big taproot of that sunflower, plus the surface roots. And then you've got the different root system there of the sorghum plant, which is so fibrous. And that is extremely good. You can see that loam sand there. That sorghum plant, those sorghum and sunflowers just love that loam sand soil type. Really holds it together. Samphire project on our place. It was 2 moisture probes side by side, with one had a cover crop over it and one didn't. One was spray fallow with stripper straw. And at the end of the year, there was only 30 mil more. So the cover crop had used about 30 mil of water. This is what the wheat sown through the cover crop looked like. This is cover crops pre-cattle days, so we weren't grazing our cover crops. So we were setting them up to go into a summer cash. So, you know, that was just some of the things we're chucking into our cover crops. This is sowing sunflowers into a standing cover crop. Regenerated sorghum. So, you know, we had a cover crop there the previous summer. We had wheat through it, harvested the wheat, we had a shower of rain, and then all of a sudden this regenerated sorghum just shot off the old root systems. We've done some companion cropping as well, peas and canola and lentils and flax. We've had a crack at some corn. Pretty tough to get corn to pollinate in our country. So corn's got the tassel. The pollination happens between the tassel and the cob, and if that happens over about a 25-degree day, it just burns up. Again, pre-cattle days, you look at all the cattle feed there and go, what the hell was I doing? We've grown mung beans as well. So this was a wheat crop. We sowed mung beans into the wheat crop in December. And then the next April, we're harvesting the mung beans and we're sowing the next crop of canola. We've done chickpeas and linseed. So Realities around companion cropping. Sometimes you may need to apply an input, but it's only for half the crop. So, you know, my example there is an insecticide for pea weevil over the peas on the piola, but of course the canola doesn't need it. Available on-farm storage for the mixture, can be cleaned or sold as a mixture. I would love to grow a mixed grain cover crop and sell it to our feed mills, but when you take that sample into the feed mill, they just look at it and go, we can't handle this, you know, because they want their 1 bin of wheat and 1 bin of barley and their 1 bin of peas, and they mix it all together anyway, but they just can't handle it being pre-mixed. Extra labour requirement to clean the grain, and when you're, you know, if you've got a low labour requirement like what we do, it's just my wife Cassie and me and Dad on the farm, and there's an extra cost to cleaning the grain as well. But start small and scale up if you do have a market or it does work very well for you. So companion cropping does work. You just need to make sure it pays the bills. That's where I'm at with companion cropping. Yes, we will do more of it in the future when we refine it. Like I said, it'd be easier if we can find a market for us that would take it straight away. Cover crops don't always work. You know, I've shown you the big lots of sunflowers and tillage radishes. I have grown plenty of cover crops that look like this. And then it doesn't rain until the next May, and you go, well, that was a waste of time, which it was. But what I was doing there is I was always trying to sow my cover crops behind a grain crop. And it's extremely difficult to get a cover crop established behind a grain crop. So cover cropping for low rainfall. So opportunistic, we make use of the rain when it falls. Milo or sorghum, grain sorghum, and sunflowers are my go-to. They're my absolute go-to. Has to be in every summer mix. Easier to grow a mixed species cover during our winter. So, you know, for us that's an early April sowing timing and then grazing that through the winter period. Cover crops and livestock is the no-brainer. So we need to make money from our cover crops. Cost me $55 a hectare to run my seeder. And then of course seed costs on top of that. We have to get those costs back. And do your own on-farm trials and make some nitrogen for the next crop as well. Now this year, you need to earn the right to grow cover crops in low rainfall. You need to save the water first to then be able to use it. And what I mean by that is that you need to be full stubble retention, no or zero till, save the water, then you can grow your cover crop to be able to then use it. There's no point growing a cover crop on bare dirt and full tillage if there's no water. It's just, you're setting yourself up for failure straight away. So introduction of livestock, so we were growing winter cover crops, and then so introduction of livestock. This here was a month before Cassie and I got married, so we thought it'd be a great idea to get cattle 1 month out from our wedding. This was the day before we got married. Cassie was busy getting everything ready for the wedding, and I thought, oh well, I'll just go seeding. So we do this. So this is what I find the best time to get summer cover crops established is right now, AFL Grand Final week, or close enough to. Typically, we still normally have enough moisture to get a cover crop up now, like a summer cover get going now, and we've got warm soil temperatures. And also, we normally still have that little bit of stored moisture left over if you've been grazing that cover crop. Taking that crop through to grain uses too much water, but you know, now if you're looking to sow summer covers, this last couple of weeks in September is the right timing. So grazing mixed species, that's what grazing mixed species. We've tried some swath grazing. This was an attempted organic wheat crop that I thought I'd have a go at. There was too many weeds in it, wasn't real happy with it, so we cut it down and we did some swath grazing. That worked extremely well, very happy with that. Just don't make your swaths too wide. A mate of mine did it with I think it was a 40-foot swather, and he backed the swaths back to back, and the cattle ended up bearing out right next to the swaths because they had to stand there for too long. So if you're going to do swath grazing, make sure your swaths are nice and close together, you know, 15, 20, 25 feet. type of roast, like, swaths, that's about right. We do grow some stripper straw as well, so using hot wire in the summertime. We had a bale grazing experiment, so we had a bit of saline ground on the side of a sandhill, so it's starting to go saline, so we thought we'd do some bale grazing. For turning a small patch, for having an issue on a small patch of ground, that is a really cool way to bring it back within 2 years. This is our little knife roller. Sometimes the cover crops get a bit high for our single strand hot wire, and of course when the cover crop touches the hot wire, it earths out. So just got a little knife roller we tow behind the ute. So this is our setup, so we just got a knife roller and our fencing trailer for setting out hot wire. When cattle was really expensive and I couldn't buy, well, I didn't want to go and buy a heap of expensive cattle, I had a heap of feed left over. This was this time of year last year, so I just hit it with a big set of rollers, just like using a crimper. And then that allowed the little bit of ryegrass that's in there. Obviously ryegrass is bad for us crop farmers. So I was able to go over it with a very light rate of Roundup and just stop the ryegrass from setting any seed. So I rolled it, and then a week later just a really light rate of glyphosate. So our tips for running cattle on cropping ground. Now I have no unarable. I have nowhere to hide my cattle. We're 100% cropping. So for us, everything's got to be portable. So portable hot wire, portable water, portable mineral licks, portable yards, portable crush. And we got started by beg, borrow, share equipment and cattle. That's how we got our start. And get good advice from your local regen cattlemen in your area. When the ground is dry, we always run 2 wires. So we basically have very little external fencing. We don't have any gateway. We've ripped all our gateways out for machinery. So we run 1 hot and 1 earth wire, so that when cattle push through, they earth out. That's my water system. We have changed troughs. I've gone to a lot larger portable steel trough on wheels now, a 9,000 litre tank, so we fill that up out of our mains water source. But that just allows us to move the water when we're doing our rotational grazing as well. And of course a portable crush and portable yards. How am I going for time? What do we got? 5 minutes. So spraying liquid urea. So we're dissolving our own urea. What we do is we fill a tank with water, and then we slowly add the urea to the water tank, pumping it around and around. So you can see there we've just got an inlet there. We swirl the water round and round, and then we just slowly add the urea to it, and the urea dissolves. So we're now doing 2 to 3 passes of foliar nutrition. We've gone from spending around $400,000 on fertiliser, and we're now back to this 50 kilos to the hectare of urea SOA spread in the first weeks of June. Joel Williams recommends a carbon source in your dissolved urea as a foliar. We do also put a mix of molasses and fish emulsion, seaweed and trace elements. We do add a little bit of nickel in there as well. Please do your on-farm trials. It's not about the yield, it's the profit margin. We've also been really focusing on some sap testing. And what have we learnt from our sap testing? We have huge amounts of calcium in our soil and it's not available. So we are spraying calcium out. We have boron at depth. We have massive toxicity boron at depth. But while our plants are little, we're actually boron deficient. So we need to apply boron until our crops get into the boron layer. So these are the little things that we're learning from sap testing. Also, we're learning too what works and what doesn't. So what trace elements we're spraying out, what works and what doesn't. We did a silica trial the other day on a product. The silica didn't work on the wheat, but it did work in the lentils. So you can see here our calcium is not too bad. What we're doing here with the sap test is that these dark green lines is the old leaf and the light green lines is the new leaf. So what we've got here is, see, we've got phosphorus. Sorry, that's unclear for some people at the back. We've got phosphorus here. We've got low levels of phosphorus in the old leaf and high levels of phosphorus in the new leaf. And what's happening there is the plant is actually pulling phosphorus from the old leaves into the new leaves. So that tells me our next foliar spray needs phosphorus in it. So this is what it looks like. We make all our own trace elements, we mix it up. And so this is what it looks like when we're loading the boom spray. Peter Treloar's been doing soil testing on our farm, deep end testing. What we have learnt, we get our nitrogen spikes at the end of July. So I need a little bit of urea in June to get me through the cold, wet June. And by the time we get through to the end of July, we get our mineralisation and we get our nitrogen spike at the end of July. So we're putting out a little bit of spread urea SOA early, and then we're topping our plants up with foliar nutrition in the back end of the season. We also do Johnson Sioux compost. That's an old stock crate that Mum and Dad made into a Johnson Sioux compost machine. This is our seed treater, so very simple, that's just the liquid in there, into the seed treater. Drilled a hole in the auger and welded a socket to the top of the auger. And up there, and our seeds been biologically treated with Johnson Sioux compost. So taking the moron out of the moron, trying to apply what is needed when is needed. We've dropped a heap of money in fertiliser, dropping in, reducing money in insecticides and herbicides. This one here, spray just in case. There is so much of this in our industry now of, oh, well, you're going over it, just put it in. Oh, you're going over, just put it in. No. Let's go and check. Do we need to spray this out? Do we need to do it? Because number one, that's on your bank account, spraying it out if you don't need it. But number two, we may not need to spray some of these insecticides and fungicides. Your agronomist must understand your economics. And most issues are caused through previous actions, like too much early nitrogen that's not converted and then causing insect issues. So again, you must earn the right to go low input farming. Improve your soil first using those sort of, the no-till and zero-till and ground cover, rotations and cover crops. And when your soil is improved, then you can start lowering your inputs. Foliar nutrition is the way to kickstart lowering your fertiliser and input costs. If you're not doing leaf testing or sap testing, understanding what's going on, putting on your correct nutrition, that's the really, really good way to start. So I come up with this diagram. Every season is different and every crop is different, all livestock are different, and the caretakers are different. It's about our context. So last year, big wet, heap of disease, we probably should have been in here. I'll even admit, I should have put more fungicides on last year. That's just the way the season was. Pressure was huge. This year it's a bit drier. We can be back in here a bit more. So if you've got to save your crop, you save your crop. It's that simple. If you had a sick animal, you'd fix it. If you've got a sick crop, you've got to fix it. And then Nashi, he thought, well, he'll do one better. So this is Nashi's diagram. Mine's simple. Nashi always needs to complicate everything. And this is Nashi's diagram here. So it just depends on where we want to be inside of there, but it just changes every season. So thank you very much. I'm sorry for going over time.